Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Nathan Fox, one of the founders of LSATdemon.com and the weekly podcast Thinking LSAT. Today I have with me Josh Mansfield. Josh is a teacher with us at LSAT Demon. We have an email here from Susan. Susan says, timed sections are better than practice tests.
Hi, Nathan. I think this is advice you gave her, so she's thanking you particularly here, Nathan.
Oh,
I'm taking the June LSAT and took your advice on the podcast to stop doing practice tests so frequently and instead do timed sections, which at first I didn't understand why. I was doing 1 to 2 practice tests a week, finishing with -5 on LR consistently or -3 on RC. For the last 2 weeks, I've been doing timed sections, and I've seen my scores in both categories hit -1 consistently. I'm feeling great about my upcoming test and want to say thanks.
cool. I'm glad you found that advice helpful. I mean, I would caution Susan against making too much out of small samples. She's been doing this for all of 2 weeks,
Sure.
and that's not a lot of data. So, I mean, not only that, but you are going to have to do a full test on the day of the test. So it's not like I'm not telling you do time sections because they're easier. I'm telling you do time sections because you'll learn more from them.
Right.
Right? You do a time section and you immediately review your mistakes. I like that a lot better than you do a full test and then put the test away and pick it up next Tuesday and you forgot what you were even thinking. You have no idea. You're like blank slate. You've lost the opportunity to learn. So my main advice is just you don't need to block off 3 hours to study, which you necessarily have to do if you're doing a full test. And you also don't have to I want your review to be closer to your actual work. So drilling, you do one question at a time, immediately review. Sections, you do one section, 35 minutes or longer if you have accommodations, but 35 minutes for most people. Do the section and then immediately review. The ones I care about the most are the ones that you missed. And I don't care about the ones that you missed at the end of the section that you had to guess on. That's fine. But the ones that you attempted and missed, boy, are those good opportunities to learn. And maybe that's what clicked for Susan, is that she has been getting more out of her practice.
I'm sure that's part of it. Another thought too, Nate. I very rarely, and by very rarely, I might dare say never, have seen a student who's doing 2 practice tests a week who are treating their practice tests like they're drilling, of solving one question at a time. When
They're always
they're
practicing their timing. I'm working on my timing.
They're playing.
Oh no, this is different.
The slot machine of scores, right? They pull the lever. They want to see the score that comes at the end. There's a good chance that the timed section is just doing questions to Susan.
Yeah.
And so she lets go. She does one at a time. She's not thinking about the score at the end. She's not thinking about, what law school is this practice test going to be good enough for. She's just thinking about doing the section. And that's that focus, that following the strategy that she knows she should be following, is what's getting her score up. Susan, if that's the case, you have to still keep doing a practice test here and there because you have to learn to do that practice test the same way you're doing the time section.
Yeah. The official test is just another practice test. The practice test is just another practice section, except for it's 3 or 4 of them in a row. And your practice sections are just like drilling. It's just one question at a time and solve it. If you want to transform your LSAT score, you need to learn the main lesson, which is these questions are solvable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the day of the test, it's ultimately just on you to solve the question. Do the work of a lawyer, read it carefully enough, actually understand it, figure out the logic, just that it makes sense. Make sense of it. And a lot of times that comes in the context of, hey, your argument makes no sense, and I'm going to tell you why it makes no sense. That's the point of the question, right? But you learn that the questions are solvable. There's really one right answer. There's really 4 wrong answers. And that's how you do your drilling. That's how you do your time sections. That's how you do your practice tests. That's how you do your official test, is from just understanding and solving one question at a time.
The number one thing I see when students say, I underperformed on my practice, I underperformed on my official test relative to my practice tests. Well, what did you do different? Well, I usually only get to 18 and I got to 22.
Yep.
There it is.
Or uh, yeah, or flip side, I usually get to 18, but this time I only got to question number 11
Yeah.
because I gave the test so much, the official test, so much respect that I
Yeah.
triple checked every wrong answer
Uh-huh,
on the first
uh-huh.
5 questions. And, like, because I just hadn't gotten, a lot of times I think that happens when people just don't do enough time to practice to learn,
Sure.
like, hey, the clock is ticking, but I'm going to ignore the clock. It's fine. If you don't get in that rhythm, then yeah, I don't know. It's this big difference between managing your time and just learning to appropriately ignore the clock.
Mhm.
Like, you got to give the record a lot of respect. You have to understand the record. You've got to give the speakers on logical reasoning a lot of disrespect because you just expect that they're giving you bogus arguments. You become the master of each argument one at a time. Or in reading comprehension, you just become the master of that document. You don't have to memorize it, but you do have to understand what's there and why. Then, when you get to the questions, you're going to thoroughly disrespect the wrong answers. You're just going to expect the wrong answers to be wrong. And you're going to have solved many of the questions in the course of mastering the passage.
Yep.
Then the test becomes easy.
Becomes like drilling.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we could probably leave it
I
there
think so.
for Susan.
Yeah. Thanks for writing in, Susan. Email daily at lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.